Well, hey guys, what's up? It's your boy, one and only AI Legends, and yeah, guys, today I am back with the next part of what if Naruto was abandoned by his family and was banished by Konoha. So, yeah, guys, today I'm going to do the next part of it, and hopefully, you guys will be able to, you can say, like it as well. And hopefully, this one will be the last part of this series, but who knows? So yeah guys, let us start the video. But before starting this video, I would like to make a request to all of you guys who are watching this video. If you guys are new to this channel or if you guys have not subscribed yet, please guys do so. It will really help me a lot. I'm quite near to 11k and hopefully I will be able to reach it with the help of you guys. So please guys do so, and please like and subscribe. For the next part, the like goal is going to be 300 likes, and for the comment section it is going to be 180 comments. Do that. So yeah guys, without any further ado, let us start the video. Last time we left off as we saw that how Naruto was able to bring Tsunade out of Konoha as all the elemental nations were getting ready for war once again against the Uzushu, against all the elemental nations, as Naruto was able to bring Tsunade out of the, you can say, Konoha, as Naruto explained to Tsunade that how his little brother Nawaki was all along alive, as Tsunade could not believe her eyes when she saw her little brother. Well, he was not that little anymore, but still he was used as an experiment by Orochimaru, who wanted the DNA of the Senju clan, since Tsunade was so much stronger. So he has to, you can say, rely on a weaker member. After all, he wanted to use the cells of Hashirama, which were not working. So he had to use the cells of a closely relative of Hashirama Senju so that he can obtain the Moketan. And only one success that was there, that was Yamato. As Naruto explained to Tsunade that how third Hokage allowed Orochimaru to use Nawaki as his experiment so that he could obtain the Moketan bloodline, as Tsunade was furious about it, as we saw that how Gaara was betrayed by Sunagakure, as Temari, who was supposed to be the Godaime Kazekage, but Gaara became the Kazekage. After that, the whole war with Konoha, in which Temari lost Shikamaru, who she loved a lot. Well, not lost, but still, she was against him. And then after that, Gaara refused to help the elemental nations to take down Uzushio Gakure, as Temari had finally had enough, as all the Suna was already against Gaara, so they finally tried to kill him, but Gaara was able to escape from there. So yeah guys, that was the last part of the series. If you guys have not seen it, please check it out. You guys will definitely like it. So yeah guys, let us start the video from here on. As now, let us get back to the cage meeting, as a new cage meeting has already been summoned, as Minato had a smug look on his face, as well as, you can say, he was looking towards the new cage of the Suna. It was none other than Temari, as while on the other hand all the cages were looking towards each other with, you can say, doubt in their eyes, as, you can say, Tsuchikage simply scoffed at Minato as he said, "Alright Hokage, so are you guys ready? After all, after this, we are not going to be ally anymore. We have only one purpose, to get rid of the Uzushio Gakure as well as the Uzumaki clan. They are no longer welcome in this world. They were supposed to be dead, and that is it." As Raikage simply nodded at that as he said, yeah, Uzumakis are supposed to be dead. They are way too much powerful to be allowed to live in this world anymore. As Minato simply nodded at that, while on the other hand Minato already had plans of his own, that how he's going to subdue Naruto and then most of the Uzumakis, so that he can use them as an experiment, and all that. He will get the secret weapon of the Sage of Six Part, which is in the hands of the Uzumakis once again, as after that he will easily be able to take down all the elemental nations with his power. That was the secret plan of Minato. Well, not that secret anymore, as all of them simply nodded at that and started to plan. As then Mizukage speak up, well, Kazekage-sama, what happened to the Godaime Kazekage? If I remember correctly, his name was Gaara, right? As Minato had a small smirk on his face as Temari simply looked towards Mizukage. He is no longer the cage. He did not want it to take part in it, and the Suna Council decided to replace him with a better person who can see that what has to be done. As Mizukage simply nodded at that, even though she had a little bit of doubt, but who knows, who cares to begin with. Now, on the other side, as Naruto was simply sitting on his throne as Gaara simply looked towards him. Naruto, you do realize that all the other elemental nations are getting their armies ready to fight you, don't you? As Naruto simply smirked at that, well Gaara, that is exactly what I want, all of them at a one place. As Gaara simply raised and you can say his eyes since he does not have eyebrows. As they said, so are you that confident that you can take all of them on? I know that you have become powerful, but still, even with the power of the Nine Tails, as Naruto simply smirk. Well, Gaara, I no longer possess the Nine Tails, as Gaara's eyes widened as he said, what? What are you saying, Naruto? Without the Nine Tails, you simply cannot be alive. After all, you're a Jinchuriki, as Naruto simply smirk. When I said, Gaara, Nine Tails no longer exist. As Naruto simply smirked at that, but before Gaara could say anything, as another person started to walk in, as he said, all the preparations has already been made, Lord Uzukage. It was none other than Nagato Uzumaki. As Naruto simply smirked at that. So, tell me, what is going on in the whole Konoha? As he simply smirked at that as Nagato returned the smirk. After all, the plan was going according to all the planning they have made. This is soon going to be, Uzushio is soon going to shine once upon, you can say once again in the elemental nations, and no one, not even Konoha, will be able to stop them no matter what. As they simply smirked back at each other. Now let us get back to Konoha as Minato was already preparing his armies and in the council chamber. As all the council members were there, as Koharu speak up, as he said, well Lord Hokage, all the preparations has already been made, so what are the plans of the elemental nations and what are we going to do about them? After all, it is pretty clear that after they will take care of the Uzumaki clan, they will turn against us. As Minato simply smirked at that, as he said, don't worry about it, I already have plans of my own. Soon enough, we will have what we deserve. As all of them simply nodded at that. As then Hamura speak up, well Lord Hokage, we still have our concerns. As you can already see, your children are no longer the Jinchurikis. They have lost the chakra of the Nine Tails. It seems that a demon boy has gotten his power back. As most of the civilian council members were furious as they have lost their weapon, even though they will not, you can say, openly say that the Hokage's son and daughter were weapon, but still they were the Jinchurikis, and they have lost the power of the Nine Tails to the demon. As Minato simply nodded at that as he said, well, it is no longer a problem since I have already recovered a Jinchuriki. As there were gasps could be heard across the whole room as Shikaku speak up. Well, Lord Hokage, I don't think that the other elemental nations will be so pleased that you have kidnapped one of their Jinchuriki. As Minato smirked, well, it is not one of their Jinchuriki, it is the Jinchuriki of the Nine Tails. As most of the people were now confused. As Shino's father speak up Shibi, as he said, well Lord Hokage, what do you mean by that? If I'm not mistaken, the only Jinchuriki of the Nine Tails at this point is Uzumaki Naruto. So, which means that you have captured him. As Minato simply shook his head. Well, even though I would have loved to capture him and make him a perfect weapon for the good of Konoha, but unfortunately, I was not able to capture him whatsoever. It seemed that he's hiding in the Uzushio, but don't worry about it. When I will be able to subdue him, after that he will become a weapon for the good of Konoha. But at this point, we were able to get some information at the fire temple. It seemed that someone was able to make a pseudo Jinchuriki of the Nine Tails by the remaining chakra that remained in Konoha after the Nine Tails attack, and there were several gasps could be heard as Minato smirked as he said, well, it seemed that his father wanted him to use against Konoha. Well, I was able to kill him and get the pseudo Jinchuriki, and at this point he is being trained by our Ambu, and soon enough he will be a loyal dog for us to use in this world, and many other elemental nations will see the might of Konoha. As there were several nods at that. As Minato smirked at that, everything was going according to the plan, and soon enough he will have the weapon in his hands, and then all the other elemental nations will bow down to him. As Minato had a smirk on his face. And now let us get back to Kushina, as Kushina was training both Menma and Naruto, as both of them were able to activate the chakra chains. As Kushina said, yes Minato, as she said, well Menma, that's the way, as well as Naruto, you're both of you have been able to unlock the chakra chains of the Uzumaki clan. With this, you should be able to subdue Naruto, and then we will be able to capture him. As both Menma and Naruto simply nodded at that, as Naruto simply scoffed as she said, well, he was able to get the better of us last time, but it does not matter anymore. We are a lot stronger. As Menma simply nodded at that. After all, Menma just wanted to impress his father, nothing more than that, while on the other hand Naruto is a carbon copy of Kushina, so she does not care about anything, about family or anything like that. As Kushina simply nodded at that, she knows that only an Uzumaki can wield the weapon of the Sage of Six Parts because of their immense life force, and that was the only reason they were able to wield it in the first place. But they did not want it to rule the elemental nations, but it does not matter anymore. And she will have the weapon. If she does not, then Menma and Ruko should be able to wield it in time. As she simply nodded at that, all the things were going according to the plan. As she clenched her fist, how dare that failure to remind and bring back the Uzumaki clan. They were supposed to be dead. They refused to accept her as an heir. They wanted him to be Arashi, to be the heir of the Uzumaki clan. As she gritted her teeth at that, she remembered all the hatred she had for her so-called family as well as her so-called clan, always praising Arashi this, Arashi that, and she was considered a failure for not having the dark release. As she gritted her teeth at that, but it seemed that once again she will have opportunity to crush that clan, so-called family of her once again. As she smirked at that. And now let us cut back to Obito, as Obito was in a dark cave and in front of him was none other than Kabuto. As Kabuto simply smirked at that as he quickly go through hand signs, and then finally a coffin rose up as it burst open, and the person inside of him was none other than Madara Uchiha. As Madara simply looked around as he said, well, it seems that the plan is not going according to everything we thought. Isn't that right, Obito? As Obito simply nodded at that and started to explain the whole situation, what is going on in the elemental nations, that how he lost the Rinnegan and they did not even have a single Biju to begin with. As Madara was furious at that, but he did not let it be shown. As he said, so who is this person? Uzumaki Naruto, you say? As Obito simply nodded at that and he possessed the Rinnegan, my Rinnegan. As Madara simply smirked at that as he said, and Uzumaki, you say? And what's so special about him? And why you were not able to take him down to begin with? As Obito gritted his teeth as he started to explain the situation, that how somehow he possessed some dark release which he has never heard about. As Madara raised an eyebrow, he does remember something like that. His father once told him about something of a secret Kekkei which the Uzumaki clans possessed, but that was, you can say, after his passing away when Arashi time came, so he did not knew much about it. Even when he was alive, he was doing his own thing and did not care about the world. After all, he was trying to awake the Rinnegan, so he did not heard much about it. As he said, well, I did remember one person, something about dark release, but I thought he must have died at this point. As Obito explained the whole situation as Madara simply smirked at that, while on the other hand in Konoha, as Minato was simply looking towards Donzo, as he said, Donzo. So, are you ready about this jutsu? As Donzo simply nodded at that as he said, well, Lord Hokage, as all the council was there as they quickly go through hand sign, and there were already 3 sacrifices, and then the Edo Tensei was performed, and once again 3 Hokage was standing in front of him. As Tobirama speak up as he said, what is going on here? As he simply looked towards his hand, Edo Tensei, huh? As mother, as then you can say Hashirama also looked towards his hand. So this is the cursed jutsu you made, brother. Last time I checked, I told you to stop working on it. It seemed that after my death, you are still working on it. As Tobirama simply scoffed at that. I made it for the good of Konoha, brother. You will not understand it. As Hashirama simply shook his head, and then Third Hokage simply smirked as he said, well, Minato, it seems that you are able to bring me back, huh? So tell me, what's actually going on here? By the look of it, the things are not going according to the plan. As Tobirama simply looked towards, you can say, Hiruzen, as Hiruzen had a smirk on his face as Minato simply shook his head, and then he said, well, we are at a war at this point. As all the third Hokages, all the three Hokages simply look towards each other as Tobirama speak up. So by the look of it, you are the fourth Hokage, huh? Interesting. So do tell me who actually are you? As Minato smirked as he said, well, I'm the strongest Hokage to this point. My name is Minato Namikaze, the yellow flash of Konoha. As Tobirama narrowed his eyes, by the look of it, you have mastered my Hiroishin Chulsu, but do not forget, boy, I'm the maker of it, and I can hack your jutsu as well if I so desire. As Minato narrowed his eyes at that, he did not like to be told what to do, but at this point he does not care. As he simply looked towards Tadokage, we are at war at the Uzumaki clan, as Hiruzen's eyes widened as he said, explain. While on the other hand, Hashirama narrowed his eyes along with Tobirama, the Uzumaki clan. Well, as long as Tobirama remembered, they were killed. Well, not actually, but still. They were at a war. Last time he checked. Though, why? They were at war. As Hashirama spoke up, what is going on here? Fourth Hokage. As Minato ignored him. As then Hiruzen spoke up, Minato, what about the weapon? As Minato simply sighed as he started to explain the situation. At this point, first Hokage as well as second Hokage's eyes widened at that as Tobirama glared towards Hiruzen as he said, Hiruzen, what's the meaning of this? As I why did you do all of this? As Hiruzen for some time did not say anything, but then he glared back at his old sensei. Sensei, you will never understand. You were a fool to give that kind of power to a minor village. They were getting strong, and soon enough they would have been declared as a sixth great ninja village, and we could not afford it. Konoha was being trended as its first position as the strongest elemental nations. We had the Biju, we had the Jinchuriki, they were no longer needed. As Hashirama gritted his teeth at that, he was furious at his successor. After all, he was the one who trained Hiruzen as well. But before they could say anything, as Minato spoke up, that is enough. I knew that you will argue with all of this. You will never understand the greatness we want to bring to Konoha. As he looked towards Danzo, who nodded at that as he quickly made through hand sign as both first and second Hokage stiffened at that. As then Danzo speak up, I have removed their emotion and now they are completely under control. As Minato simply nodded at that as Hiruzen smirked towards his successor. After all, he has chosen well, though he did not expect it to the Uzumaki clan to somehow came back to life as well as the weapon they were able to steal of the Sage of Six Paths. He thought that at this point they would have already used it to slay the other elemental nation. It seemed that it is back in the hand of that brat. After all, he let Uzumaki Naruto to be tortured so that he could be obedient weapon, but it seemed that it did not go that way, huh? To think that he was able to beat up that spoiled brat of an Uchiha. As Hiruzen simply scoffed at that, he was just a weapon. And soon enough, he will show him his place. As Hiruzen simply smirked at Minato, soon enough, they will take down the elemental nations. And now, finally, let us have a small time skip as all the 5 KJs were looking towards their armies, as all the armies were ready to march towards the Uzushio and once again destroy the Uzumaki clan. After all, they were supposed to be dead. They have no right to come back to life. As all the KJs were standing in front of their armies, as finally you can say they were doing the motivation thing that how they are going to destroy the Uzushigakure and things like that. Who cares about it? After all, there's no Gara, so there's no going to be grand speech about the whole thing. So yeah. And now let us get back to all the armies were simply looking towards their cages as Raikage was giving the speech that how they're going to show the might of the Kumo to the world and how they're going to take down the Uzumaki clan, as all the you can say shinobis were literally glaring at each other but still obeying their KG. After all, they have to obey, and right now they will not kill each other. Well, for now, after this war is going to end, they're going to, you can say, simply turn on each other. First of all, they're going to crush Konoha, and after that, the other nations. So yeah. And finally, Naruto was simply looking towards the armies that were rushing towards his nation with a smirk on his face as Nagato finally arrived. Are you sure about it, Naruto? You do realize that it could be trouble As Naruto simply smirked at that, even though Nagato was saying that he still had a small smirk on his face. After all, this plan was literally perfect and there is nothing going to be wrong about it. As Tsunade speak up, so Naruto, what are we going to do about it? I know that your plan and all that, but are you sure about it? You are still one man. Are you sure that you do not want us to assist? As Naruto simply smirked, well, Granny Tsunade, I think that you have some payback to give. According to my resources, it seemed that they were able to bring back the third Hokage as Tsunade's eyes widened, but then it narrowed as anger flushed through her vein. How she's going to crush her old sensei, and not only that, they were able to forcefully bring back the first and second Hokage as well. As Tsunade's eyes widened at that, but then it narrowed even further as she said, "Don't worry about it, I will handle him." As Naruto simply smirked at that and have fun, Granny. As Tsunade simply smirked at that, "You little brat," as she simply went off. As Naruto's eyes narrowed as he said, "Alright, Nagato, bring our armies." It seemed that our time to shine upon the elemental nations has once again come. As Nagato simply nodded at that, as Naruto's Rinnegan eyes narrowed, it seemed that someone is also going to join the party, but then again, it is going to be even more of a fun. As Naruto simply smirked at that, these people should have realized who they were going up against, and the numbers are only going to bring them down even further. As Naruto had a smirk on his face, he simply cannot wait for the armies. As after some time, finally the whole people of the shinobis of the elemental nations finally arrived to the doorstep as they could see a gigantic barrier in front of them. But to their surprise, as they were thinking that how all the Uzumakis will be there to fight them off and how they are going to simply destroy all of them and win this war, but they were not expecting only a single person who was sitting on a stone and simply looking into the sky. As all the you can say cages narrowed their eyes at that as Minato gritted his teeth. This kid, even though he was his son, no, he was no longer his son. He had a destiny as Minato gave him a purpose to serve Konoha, even though he would have been a weapon for the good of Konoha, but still, he had a destiny which Minato made for him, but Naruto refuses it. And how he wanted to make his own destiny, it's as if he will ever allow it, and it seems that Naruto possesses the dark release. He will be a perfect tool, a perfect weapon. After he will be able to subdue him and things like that. After all, Minato had made a perfect seal to seal away the abilities of Naruto as well as seal away the ninth chakra. So he will not be able to use it, and then they will be able to subdue him easily. As then Raikage speak up, as he started to chuckle, as he said, "Well, brat, it seems that you're quite arrogant, aren't you? I have heard that you're pretty strong, but you think that you're strong enough to take us on, huh?" As Naruto simply looked towards Raikage with a bored expression on his face, which angered Raikage. As Tsuchikage speak up, "Alright, brat, I will give you only one opportunity to surrender, and we might leave some of your people alive, but if you do not, we will burn this village to the ground just like we did years ago." As Naruto narrowed his eyes at Tsuchikage, as he finally stood up. As Metarumi speak up, "Alright kid, to be honest, I did not want it to have any part of this, but you have to admit it as well. The Uzumaki clan is a threat to the elemental nations, and it shall be taken care of. They are way too much strong to be left alone." As Naruto simply dusted himself, and then he started to chuckle, and then it turned into full-blown laughter on their faces as most of the people thought that he has finally lost it. As Nanma speak up, "Alright loser, just take this barrier down and we might give some mercy to the people. After all, I'm going to be the clan head of the Uzumaki clan in Konoha, so I might left some of them at my mercy." With an arrogant smirk on his face, as Naruto simply looked towards Nanma as if he was just a nuisance and nothing more than that. As Naruto simply stopped as he said, "Well, Years ago, you people, all of you, all the elemental nations attack our people just because of fear, even though it was all planned out. All of your nation, all of your cages were being played by the Konoha, by the third Hokage as he looked towards Hiruzen, who narrowed his eyes towards Naruto. You are just pawns in their hand. They use you to attack my people and finally kill them off. But even though you did all of that, you and I both know that how much casualties you actually had, and even at the end of that, the weapon of the Sage path was taken by Konoha. So in the end of the day, you you guys were nothing but used tools and nothing more than that, as most of the people gritted their teeth at that, as some of them glared towards the shinobis of Konoha, who simply did not say anything, as Naruto simply smirked at that. His plan was coming way too easy for his liking, even though he knows that some of the fun is still going to come no matter what, as Naruto simply smirked at that. As he said, even though you and I both know that if the weapon was in the hand of Konoha, if they were able to use it, none of the elemental nations would have been here. It is only because of the fast thinking of the Uzumaki clan they were able to seal away the powers of the weapon. So it could not be used anymore. That weapon is way too much dangerous, as Tsuchikage speak up. As Naruto smirk, that weapon is, you can say, given to us by the Sage of Six Path. So it was only for protection, so it can never be used. In all of the history, Uzumaki clan never used it, but still, because of your own paranoia, it is going to be used today, as most of the people stiffen at that. As not the simply smirk at that, but at this point, using a weapon to fight you guys is going to be way too much boring. As Minato speak up, alright, I have more than enough of this brat. Just give us the weapon and all that, and we might leave some of your people alive if you beg properly. As Naruto simply smirk, how foolish of you, my dearest mother, as he simply looked towards Kushina, who narrowed her eyes. Did you actually forgot what were the abilities of my Kekkei Genkai? As Kushina narrowed her eyes as Naruto smirked, but of course you forgot. After all, you were way too much arrogant to remember. And all that, way too much hating my uncle because of his power which he was born with, and you could never have, no matter what you may actually do. As Kushina gritted her teeth at that. After all, you are just a failure. As Kushina finally lost it as she released her chakra chain, as Naruto simply smirked. With a flick of his finger, all the chains shattered, as Kushina was taken aback from it, as Naruto said, as he simply moved his finger, as if you can say it, looking towards a child, as Naruto simply smirked. How foolish of you, perhaps you have forgotten one of my abilities. Or rather, the abilities of the dark release to control the emotions, to control the darkness in the very heart of a person, and bringing on the armies of killers in front of my door. What did you actually think? As Naruto's voice was getting louder and louder, and some of the as Tsuchikage's eyes widened at that. After all, he remembered what actually happened. He did not thought that that would happen here. As Naruto simply smirked as a black aura covered him, as his eye turned completely black and red as he looked towards the armies that were there, as most of the people eyes started to change, as one of the, you can say, Kumo shinobi speak up, hey, you trash of Iva, how dare you to be here? As most of the people started to turn on each other, as the army, which was, you can say, a organized army, once again turned on each other. As Raikage speak up, brat, what have you done? As he looked back towards the shinobi who were attacking the shinobi of Konoha and the shinobis of, you can say, different elemental nations, Sand, Kumo, Iva, and Konoha, and all of them were attacking each other as an organized army simply turned on each other within the blink of an eye, as Naruto started to laugh a dark laughter as, you can say, Raikage speak up, Tsuchikage, your people are attacking my people. As Tsuchikage said, calm down Raikage, he's using his abilities to turn and bringing out the old hatred of people. Damn it, how could I forget it? As he gritted his teeth, as Naruto simply smirked, arrogance Raikage. Arrogance Tsuchikage, you forgot, this is the same technique which my uncle used in the second. After all, you do remember it, don't you? As Tsuchikage gritted his teeth at that. After all, 1000 shinobi he sent to attack the Uzushio Gakure that day, and all of them never None of them came back. After all, they simply turned on each other. As Tsuchikage gritted his teeth on that, all the armies were already attacking each other as Naruto smirked, and don't worry about it. I did not use that ability on you guys. After all, I did wanted to have a bit of fun, right? As he smirked at that, as Minato said, enough of this, Hashirama, subdue him. As Hashirama rushed towards Naruto with his Moketan abilities, as trying to subdue Naruto, as Naruto simply smirked at that. The greater the darkness, greater my power, as Naruto burst into the complete darkness as the forest that was coming towards him simply littered away, died down right there and right then as Naruto slammed into Hashirama. As, or rather, the black dust slammed into Hashirama, sending him flying. As Tobirama quickly go through hand sign as a water dragon rushed towards Naruto. As Naruto simply smirked at the blink of an eye, as water dragon burst into the droplets of water. As the third Hokage tried to attack Naruto, but Naruto grabbed third Hokage and threw him at a different section of the place. And third Hokage finally landed. He was about to rush again, but then he met with a fist to his face. It was none other than, you can say, Tsunade. As Tsunade glared towards third Hokage as Hiruzen speak up. Tsunade, what are you doing? We have to take Naruto down. He has finally lost it. And we have to protect Konoha. What are you doing here? As Tsunade gritted her teeth. You did all of this to me. You have done all of that to my family, to Nawaki. As Hiruzen's eyes widened, it seemed that Tsunade has found out what they have done to her dear little brother, but it does not matter anymore. He was a shinobi of Konoha and nothing more than a tool. So Hiruzen, the Hokage, could use it as he tried to, you can say, reason with Tsunade, but Tsunade was having none of it. And how the battle once again began, while on the other hand Naruto was smirking at that as Minato threw his three-pronged kunai all around the place and started to flash away as Minato came behind Naruto with a Rasengan in his hand. As Naruto simply smirked as Naruto moved with such speed grabbing the hand of Minato as Naruto simply smirked. Perhaps you did not listen to me, my dearest father. The greater the darkness in one's heart, greater my power. And at this point, I can easily say you are one of the most darkest people here. So much hatred, so much greed in your heart. As Minato gritted his teeth at that, as Naruto backhanded the Rasengan away and backhanded Minato before he could even flash away. As Naruto simply smirked at that, as Naruto started to speak, "Come on out, I can already sense you, Madara." As then, you can say, a projectile slammed into the place as the immense chakra was formed as Naruto simply smirked at that as Madara Uchiha was standing there with a smirk on his face as he said, "Alright, brat, so you're the one who possessed my eyes, huh? The Rinnegan." As Naruto simply smirked, "Huh, I knew it, you're the one who gave the Rinnegan to Nagato." It seemed that other person, what was his name again? Well, I forgot, but who cares? After all, he was the one who revived you, and I think that Kabuto also has a hand in it, doesn't he? As Madara simply smirked as he looked back towards Hashirama. As he said, "It seems that my old friend is also here, but he does not have the control of his emotions." Interesting. As you can say, Minato saw that how Madara Uchiha was also there. He could use it to his advantage. If both Hashirama and Madara tag team Naruto, there's no way he should be able to, you can say, win. And with the help of Hashirama, they should be able to subdue him. And then Minato could place his seal on Naruto. And all of it will be over, right? As he simply gave the command for Hashirama to tag team with Madara as Madara noticed that as he looked towards Minato as he simply smirked at that. "Well, it has been some time since I have worked with my old friend, so let's do this, Hashirama." As Hashirama simply nodded at that as both of them rushed towards Naruto as Naruto simply smirked. He also rushed towards both of them as a Taijutsu fierce battle began. As Madara quickly changed his eyes to the Mangekyo Sharingan because of the darkness, because of the greed of the people in which Naruto was surrounded by, his dark release was getting stronger and stronger by each and every second. As so Madara was not able to keep up in Taijutsu as Naruto was able to push both Hashirama and Madara back as Madara simply smirked at that. It seemed that you're getting stronger somehow. Well, it does not matter as he quickly changed into the Mangekyo Sharingan as he said, "Alright, brat, let's see if you can handle this." As Susanoo appeared above Madara in his imperfect form, as Madara slammed all of his four, you can say, swords into Naruto, as Hashirama also made a golem as he started to slam his fist as well as the wood dragon into the place where Naruto was standing. And then both of them stop as Naruto simply smirked as Madara tried to push the sword of Susanoo back, but something was holding on to it, and same was the case with the fist of the golem as Naruto simply started to laugh as his whole body started to surround with dark and red energy even further as Naruto, you can say, released a dome of dark energy, such dark energy, and it slammed into the imperfect form of the Susanoo as well as the golem, shattering both of them apart and sending a huge portion of the army back. As Naruto started to laugh even further as he said, "Huh, so Rashi Sensei was right. The more I fight in it, I almost lost it there." Huh. I just started to look all around the place at the thought, it seemed that it is going to be a lot more fun than I previously thought, huh? As Madara finally stood up as he said, "Alright, brat, I admit it, you're pretty strong, huh? You are able to handle my imperfect Susanoo, but I have more than enough of it. I have a lot of work to do. I have the bijus to gather, and it seems that your Ninetales is inside of you. I'll be taking it after I defeat you, that is." As Naruto simply smirk, try it if you can, brat. As Madara narrowed his eyes at that, as his eyes started to change as the Rinnegan finally shined in the eyes of Madara as he said, let's see if you can handle that, brat. It seems that you're protecting that place. I suppose the Uzashio Gakure, right?" As Naruto narrowed his eyes as Madara quickly go through hand sign, but then all the battle stopped as a gigantic, you can say, meteor was coming towards the Uzashio Gakure as all the army stopped, even Minato stopped for a moment as he gritted his teeth at that, as all the army started to retreat even though they were fighting each other at one point, as Naruto simply smirked at that, as Madara narrowed his eyes. What was this kid going to do? After all, it was a meteor. As Naruto simply started to laugh as it burst into the dark flame, as it vanished from the area, as all the greed, all the dark energy that was there, it started to gather in the hand of Naruto, as Naruto rushed towards the meteor. If you have seen the scene in the One Punch Man, the same scene happened here, as Naruto slammed his dark energy as well as borrowing the power of the ten-tailed Kurama in his one arm and slamming it into the meteor, shattering it apart as most of the pieces try to rush towards a barrier, but to the most of the shinobi's surprise, all of them turned into dust. As Madara's eyes narrowed even further, it seemed that this kid was stronger than he previously thought, and there was some type of chakra which he used, which Madara did not sense. He thought that he would use the power of the Ninetales, and Madara will suppress it thanks to his Rinnegan and the Mangekyo Sharingan. But that kid did not use the power of the Ninetales. What is going on here? How can this kid be even strong? This strong Sharingan is the perfect Kekkei. The Mokitan came close, but still, this dark release, this whatever, cannot be this strong, right? As Madara narrowed his eyes. While on the other hand, Kushina was trying her best to make it, you can say, trying to make it to the Uzashio Gakure so that once again she can steal that scroll as well as a weapon. After all, Naruto did not have it in his hand, which means that it is stolen in the secret section in the Uzashio Gakure. She was there, so she knew that the secret sections in the Uzashio Gakure, she can get it inside of it. After all, she was an Uzumaki, but one person was waiting for her in all of this chaos as Kushina narrowed her eyes, but then her eyes widened at that. It simply cannot be, as it was none other than Arashi Uzumaki simply staring down towards his little sister. As Arashi speak up, "It has been some time, wouldn't you agree, Kushina?" As Kushina, her heart almost stopped when she looked towards the dark eyes of her older brother, as Arashi had a, you can say, bloodthirsty smirk on his face. After all, he could also use the dark release and all of this battle which is going on around him, all of that hatred, the greed, all of that things were fueling his power even further and further as Arashi smirked at Kushina. At long last, he will have his revenge. As while on the other hand, Madara as well as Hashirama simply looked towards each other as Madara started to laugh as he said, "Well, Hashirama, why don't we once again battle like old times and take this fort down? Wouldn't you agree, my old friend?" As you can say, Hashirama for some time looked towards Madara and simply nodded at that. And then finally, you can say, Hashirama slammed his hand together as the sage mode chakra started to gather in front of him as a gigantic, you can say, chakra was built up as Naruto narrowed his eyes at that as Madara also slammed his hand together as the perfect Susanoo finally stood up, while on the other hand Hashirama started to use his, you can say, 1000 hands statue. If you have seen the fight between Hashirama and Madara and Ninetales, you would have seen the gigantic statue. It was even bigger than the perfect Susanoo and even bigger than the Ninetales full size. So it was pretty big. As Naruto narrowed his eyes, but then a smirk, a bloodthirsty smirk, came to the face of Naruto as he started to laugh maniacally as Naruto simply smiled. "You know what? I was hoping for this. You have not even pushed me to use even half of my power, and I have yet to use my hidden powers. But it seemed that finally, it's about time I should be able to use it as well." As Naruto slammed his hand together, as a whitish energy started to surround Naruto, and then you can say his eyes pulsed. The power, a silver chakra was surrounding him as Naruto simply smirked. But then, all the across, you can say, the shinobis who are fighting amongst each other, being controlled by their rage and emotion by dark release itself, stopped as a gigantic shadow passed across them as even Madara's eyes widened at that as a gigantic shadow passed through his Susanoo as his Susanoo was standing top over the mountain. How is that even possible? As Naruto has finally unleashed his perfect Susanoo. After all, he possessed the Rinnegan, he possessed the 10 tails, he possessed the gigantic chakra pool all across the elemental nations. He possessed the original arts of Madara, so he should be able to activate the Susanoo as well. As for the first time in his whole life, Madara felt fear as the Susanoo was standing in front of the perfect Susanoo. As Madara's perfect Susanoo as well as Hashirama's 1000 hand statue didn't even pass through the leg of Naruto's Susanoo, as it was even bigger than the Susanoo of Uchiha Sasuke when he absorbed all the 9 Biju's chakra. As Naruto was looking down upon the shinobis, if he wants to, he can simply crush them under his foot, as even, you can say, Minato's hand were trembling with utter fear. As, while on the other hand, you can say, most of the people that were there simply threw their weapons to the ground as they were looking towards this gigantic, you can say, monster. As Naruto simply smirked. "What happened to all that confidence, Madara? I thought you possess the Rinnegan, you possess the power, you are the strongest Susanoo user ever to walk on this planet. It seems that your Susanoo is not that powerful. Now, is it, Madara?" As Madara Susanoo finally took a step back in utter fear, as even Hashirama, who did not have any emotions whatsoever, had a, you can say, something going on with him as well, as if he was scared in his own subconscious as well. As Naruto simply smirked as this Susanoo had 6 arms as well as 4 wings at his back, as all of his arms have different elemental attacks. As Naruto simply smirked as it was all silver and black. As Naruto simply smirked as he unsheathed his sword. "Now then, let us begin the fun." As the Susanoo flew into the air with a gigantic burst of wind, pushing away all the, you can say, shinobis that were there, pushing them far away from the location. Even the Susanoo and the 1000 arm of behemoth of Hashirama also was slammed to the ground as Naruto unleashed a gigantic, you can say, lightning attack to the ground, killing off a large portion of the shinobis as the Raikage was looking towards it, as well as Tsuchikage. As Tsuchikage finally had enough of it, he tried to control his shinobi, but they were not listening to the orders. It seemed that this dark release has complete control over their emotions and let it loose as Naruto Susanoo was, you can say, spreading utter destruction across the battlefield among most of the shinobis that were there, as most of them, around 60% of the shinobis, were already dead. As they were still could not believe it, as most of them came out of their whole stance of the dark relays which were being used, as Tsuchikage was now regretting even coming here as he finally prepared his ultimate attack, the most powerful, the dust release, as he released a gigantic beam towards the Susanoo of Naruto, as Naruto simply looked towards him, as the Susanoo almost smirked, a evil smirk, as Tsuchikage's eyes widened, as Naruto, you can say, swing his sword towards the Tsuchikage, as Tsuchikage's eyes widened as he quickly looked back to see most of his shinobis were behind him. What have he done? As Tsuchikage as well as his shinobis met with the sword and a gigantic boom, as a large portion of the Tsuchikage's forces was utterly destroyed. When they came out of their stand, they decided to follow their cage, try to find him and try to get some orders. So that was the main reason that they were behind the Tsuchikage, and Tsuchikage got the attention of this gigantic behemoth by attacking it, and the attack did not even work. But to Naruto's surprise, Tsuchikage was still alive as he was bleeding all over his body, while on the other hand, May was already giving the order to, you can say, retreat. They made a mistake for coming here to begin with, while on the other hand Temari could already see that how it was a gigantic mistake to even come here. They should not have come here to begin with. But before Temari as well as Kankuro and some of their forces could leave, a gigantic burst of sand appeared in front of them, and it was none other than Gaara, who was looking down towards it. As soon as Temari's eyes widened at that, as she said Gaara, as she gritted her teeth as she said, "So, what are you going to do now, huh, Gaara? Betray your village and try to side with that monster?" As Gaara simply looked towards his sister as I said, "The era of the elemental nations have finally come to an end, Temari, and nothing is going to stop Naruto, not even me." As Gaara and Temari simply looked towards each other, and at this point Kankuro and Temari knew that they should have never taken part in this war to begin with. As on the other hand, Kushina was on the ground as she was bleeding all over the place, as Arashi was simply looking down towards his sister, even though you can say their father was a clan leader. They did not have any mother. When she gave birth to Kushina, she died, and Arashi has almost, you can say, taken care of Kushina in all of her life. After all, their father was always busy in their clan matters and things like that. Even though he had loved his sister, but still she was a traitor. Because of her, he has lost everything. He lost his wife, he lost his friends, his cousin, his clan, his nation. And most of all, he lost a chance to be with his son in his childhood, to take care of him. Because of her, Nagato became pain to begin with. As he looked towards Kushina in utter, you can say, hatred, as Kushina was scared beyond anything. Nothing could describe the utter fear she felt at this point. She was regretting everything. At this point, she has never seen her brother this powerful, this, you can say, furious, as well as this ruthless, as Kushina had several broken bones all over her body. Both of her arms were fractured at several locations. At one leg she cannot walk, and she does not even know if she will ever be able to walk ever again in her life. She was looking towards Arashi with scared eyes. And at this point she was beyond scared than anything else. While on the other hand, you can say Jiraiya as well as Menma and Naruto had secret mission given to them by Minato, as Jiraiya was training both Menma and Naruto. So they finally arrived to the place where their old sensei was thrown at. Jiraiya had a mission to infiltrate the Uzushio with his shields, he should be able to disable the barrier and then they should be able to enter it and secure the scrolls as well as the weapon of the Sage of Six Path so they can get control of it and after that they can stop the other elemental nations from attacking them. It was the perfect plan. As Jiraiya and Menma and Naruto were rushing towards there as they finally arrived to see you can say a dead body by which you can say the Edo Tensei was used while on the other hand Tsunade was looking towards them as Jiraiya's eyes widened as he said, Tsunade, what are you doing here? As Tsunade simply looked towards Jiraiya with utter hatred in her eyes as Jiraiya quickly realized that this was the person, a Aiwa shinobi, which they kidnapped so that they could use as a sacrifice to bring back the first, second, and third Hokage. And this body was used to bring back the third Hokage, which means that his sensei was undone by the Edo Tensei. As Tsunade gritted her teeth as he said, You Jiraiya, as Jiraiya was taken aback from it, as he does not know what is going on here, as he said, what is going on here, Tsunade? Why are you here? But then his eyes widened. You have taken side with Naruto, haven't you? As Tsunade simply scoffed at that, Jiraiya, you knew about it, didn't you? As Jiraiya was a bit confused. You knew about Nawaki, didn't you, Jiraiya? As Jiraiya's eyes widened at that, as he was taken a step back, as he said, Tsunade. As then Tsunade finally realized Jiraiya knew about it. She had her doubt, but she just wanted to test him, and it seemed that her old friend knew about the torture, the whole experiment which was going on with her little brother, and he did not say anything. When it come to think about it, Nawaki was the very first student of, you can say, Jiraiya. He wanted to teach him, and he was a sole apprentice. And she remembered that how Jiraiya was the one who took him away on the mission, and he was the very first one who was there when Orochimaru was in the room and Jiraiya was there who stopped him at the back. She remembered that all, which means that Jiraiya was the one who kidnapped Nawaki, as well as he was in league with both Orochimaru and their sensei, as pure utter fury was running through the veins of Tsunade Senju as she glared towards Jiraiya, as Jiraiya simply looked away as Tsunade speak up, Why Jiraiya? Why did you do it? Don't tell me you were with Sensei as well as Orochimaru in their plans. Jiraiya, you're not like that. As Jiraiya simply looked back as I said, Tsunade, I had no choice. Nawaki was the only Senju back then. I knew that if I did not do anything, you and I both know that how Orochimaru was like. He would have attacked you, he would have kidnapped you, and I did not wanted you to be hurt. So, as I did the only thing to protect you, to get Nawaki to him, as Tsunade simply looked towards Jiraiya in utter fury, as he said, I had no choice, Tsunade. Can't you see that Sensei was favoring Orochimaru? He would have, even though he had trained you, but still, he would have taken the side of Orochimaru because he wanted the power of the Moketon to Konoha so that they can control the other Bijus. And even though I did not like it, but still, I had to do as a shinobi what my Hokage tell me. We needed the power of the Moketon to fight off against other Jinchurikis. And it has to be done, Tsunade, even though I never liked it, but still, as Tsunade finally had enough of it, as she rushed towards Jiraiya, as Jiraiya was taken aback from it, as he met with a punch to his face, as Menma tried to, you can say, attack Tsunade, but Tsunade finally had enough of all of them, as she has unleashed the full power of her seal as well as the whole seal expanded to her body, while on the other hand, Naruto was playing with Madara as well as both Hashirama as Naruto's kick slammed into the chest of the Susanoo of Madara as it was slammed into the air and pushed into a mountain as Naruto one hand backhanded Hashirama as well as some wooden, you can say, column which he made, shattering them apart as Hashirama tried to use a gigantic fire, but Naruto's one arm swing spread the white fire which his Susanoo had in one arm, completely destroying the whole forest, as Naruto was literally playing with all of them as Raikage finally had enough of this. His army was doing nothing at this point as he rushed towards you can say, the Susanoo, but Naruto one finger met with the body of Raikage as if swatting away a fly as Raikage was slammed in the center of his own army as Naruto started to laugh as he said, "Well, Cages, but have you forgotten one thing? Have you realized that not even one Uzumaki is here in the battlefield except me, of course? Did you honestly think that my army will take you on and things like that? No, I am more than enough, but still, there's still the question, where is my own army, huh?" As at this, both of the cages simply look towards each other, wondering where the other Uzumakis are. Definitely, they would have wanted revenge, even though not so strong enough to take them on. Still, they did not like it, but still, it was the truth. But still, they would have wanted revenge. So, where are they? But then, most of their eyes widened as Naruto smirk. Huh. They're doing the same thing you guys have done to my nation, taking away all the jutsus, all the money, and burning the village ground. As Tsuchikage speak up, it is not possible. We did not encounter any army at our way. As Naruto simply smirk, as he said, "But have you forgotten? We are the master of the Fuinjutsu, and the Flying Thunder God technique was mainly invented by the Uzumakis." As he smirked at that, at this point, Naruto's army, the armies of the Uzumaki clan, were at the gates of all the elemental nations, and since all the armies of the major villages were not in their village, only small gannins and things like that, they were easily overpowered, and at this point, the Uzumaki clan has already taken all the money, all the gold, jewelry, and things like that, the valuable things in a village, and they were burning the village to the ground. Well, not killing all the people, but still burning the whole place to the ground. The era of the elemental nations has finally come to an end. As Naruto simply looked towards all of them, "We will do the same thing which was done to us by your people, which you wanted to do again." As Raikage speak up, "You have no right to burn our villages." As he was furious, he was angry, but there was not a single thing he could actually do. As Naruto simply smirked at that, he released his Susanoo as his army, the other army, tried to surround him. As Naruto simply smirked, and with a flick of his finger, thousands of shadow clones appear. As Naruto simply smirked, as all of them burst into the black smoke, and a whole taijutsu battle began. As Naruto smirked, "Well, this will take care of these pesky shinobis," and now he has cages to take on. And then suddenly a yellow flash was behind Naruto and a seal was slammed into his chest at his back as Minato had a smirk on his face. "Alright, obey." As he made a single hand sign, as Naruto raised an eyebrow at that, he looked towards the, you can say, seal. But then a chuckle could be heard as Naruto simply shook his head as Minato narrowed his eyes. What is going on here? That seal should have been able to subdue even the 90th chakra and the brain of Naruto. It was derived from the cage bird seal. So, what was going on here? As Naruto simply laughed as he said, "I made a promise to my friend that he will have his fun, especially with him." As he looked towards Madara, whose body was trying to come up together with Edo Tensei, as after his Susanoo was utterly destroyed, as well as his whole body with a swing of Naruto's, you can say, lightning sword. As Naruto simply smirked, "Alright, my old friend, as promised." As Naruto slammed his hand together as a, you can say, silver chakra surrounded Naruto's whole body, and then another shadow loomed over the shinobis as Madara's eyes widened. He felt fear. He wanted to run. As in his own few, you can say, glory as well as fury of the 10 tails, Kurama was standing in front of all of them as Minato's eyes widened. His heart was already giving out at that, as Kurama was simply looking towards the remaining shinobi with a bloodthirsty grin on his face as Naruto simply said two words, "Have fun." As Kurama roared and rushed towards the shinobis, as he was even bigger than the original 10 tails, as well as even more powerful than the original 10 tails, as he started to, you can say, destroy the whole place. As Naruto simply smirked as he moved his hand with such force and velocity as he grabbed the, you can say, neck of none other than Obito Uchiha. You're quite annoying. Before Obito could say a single word as Naruto snapped the neck of Obito and threw his body as his old body enveloped into white flames. As Naruto finally arrived to the position as he saw that his mother was taking her last breath, as Naruto simply looked towards the eyes of Kushina as she could, you can say, see her lips as she said only one thing, I'm sorry. And after that, she was dead. As Naruto simply looked towards her body for some time, but then he looked towards Arashi, who simply had a you can say strange, unreadable expression on his face as he simply nodded at his nephew as Naruto nodded back at that. As Naruto finally arrived to the location, as he saw that his siblings were trying to capture Tsunade, while on the other hand Tsunade was beating down to Jiraiya to the point as Jiraiya was already dead, but still, you can say Tsunade was slamming her fist over and over again to the body of Jiraiya, who was at this point was dead. So Naruto simply looked towards his brother and siblings as both of them glared towards Naruto as Naruto simply shook his head. It seemed that he wanted to talk with them, trying to see if they could actually change, but he could see into their hearts. They were already taken by darkness to the point at this point, there was no other way. But still, an idea struck Naruto. He smirked. His eyes changed into black and red, and then both of their eyes changed at that as Naruto snapped his finger, as both of them were, you can say, at their knees in front of Naruto, who simply smirked at that. As Orochi simply shook his head. It seemed that you did not want to kill your own blood, huh? As Naruto simply shook his head, it is not actually that, but still, they may be arrogant and all that, but they did not have any part in the fall of the Uzumaki clan. They are the way they were raised to be. As Arashi sighed, he simply nodded at that. It seemed that everything went according to the plan. But then they were surrounded by the five cages as Naruto simply gave a look to Arashi, who smirked back at Naruto. Let's see who takes them out first, huh? As Arashi smirked back as both of them rushed towards the cages, and it ended far quickly as Tsuchikage tried to use the attack of the dust release as Naruto deflected it towards the Raikage, who tried to use his speed to attack Naruto as Naruto simply dodged the attack as Tsuchikage's attack met with the Raikage, killing Raikage right then and there, while on the other hand Tsuchikage was crushed by a fist to the head of his, destroying his brain, while on the other hand Mei Terumi tried to run away, but it was already way too late as she was taken care by Arashi, while on the other hand, you can say Temari was spared because Gara wanted to had a you can say a word with her, while on the other hand, all the other elemental nations were taken care by and taken over by the Uzumaki clan. All the bijus were gathered thanks to the weapon of the Sage of Six Paths and released to a different dimension. As you can say a part of the summoning contract, they cannot be summoned though they you have to have a summoning contract and they simply cannot be sealed away, so they were agreeable with that. So finally the series as well as the peace was brought to the elemental nation. So yeah guys, here I will have this series, hope you guys enjoy it, and if you guys like the whole series, please give it a lot of you can say um comments as well as a lot of thanks and things like that, and hopefully you guys enjoy the series. So yeah guys, peace.